Local color and value. Now, what is local color? Local color is the actual color of an object without regard to the effect of changing light and shadow conditions. And I'll show you an object here. This pot has a local color of red. It's a silhouette, as you can see, and it's unaffected by either light falling on it or shadow falling on it. And therefore, you're able to see what the actual color of the object is. The actual color is its local color, which is red. If light fell on this object and shadow fell on it, then that local color would be changed. Let's say a warm yellow light falls on this pot on the left side here. What would happen is that the pot becomes lighter in value, and also the color changes a little bit, the yellow, which means that it becomes similar to this color here, leaning a little more the orange. Not only has the local color been changed, but also the local value, which means that the actual value of the object is no longer the local value. It's become a little lighter. When I add a shadow to this object, the local color and local value will again change. Now, the shadow color cannot be a radically different color from what the local color is. For example, if the local color is red, like in this case, there needs to be some red within the shadow color. You can't just make the shadow blue or violet. You can't ignore the local color completely. However, to get a little more complicated, reflected light, the color of other objects nearby, or color from the sky or from the ground on which the object is sitting on, can be reflected into the shadow and provide that shadow with other color that is not the local color. But right now, I'm focusing on the local color and the local value. So, the shadow color in natural light cannot be a color which contains none of the original color, that is, none of the local color. I'm going to bring in the colors palette and the mixer. And I'm going to mix up a color for the shadow side of this object. First, I'll pick up the local color of the object and add it to the mixer. This local color in the mixer needs to be reduced in its intensity and value for the shadow side of this object. The shadow side of an object cannot be of the same intensity of color that the local color has, or that part of the object upon which light has been cast. To reduce the intensity of the local color, some complementary color of that local color needs to be introduced into it. And that's what I'm going to do now. The complementary color to this dark grayed red color of the pot is green. So a little bit of green can be added to this mixture. And along with it, maybe a touch of white to lighten it a little bit. What this mixture also needs is a touch of violet, because this red in shadow will contain a little bit of violet or blue. But I'm going to use violet because this is a red, and therefore the red will change a little bit, the red-violet, in the shadow, but not that much. Not so much that I lose the red local color completely. So I'll add a touch of violet, right here maybe, and then I'll pick up some of that local color again and mix this together. And I'll pick up this mixture and then see what it looks like over here. It's too violet. The local color in the shadow wouldn't change this much. It just needs to have a touch of the violet in it. That's not good either. I'll keep picking up colors until I find the one that's going to work. I did another mixture, and I'm going to apply that now. I think that's about right. You can see that the brightest color is the local color of the object, which is right here, between the color of the light and the color of the shadow. Right here is where the most intense color occurs, and where the true color of the object can be seen, which is the local color, and also the local value can be seen there. So the reason why you can still see the local color and the local value is because that part of the object has not been affected by the color of the light or the color of the shadow. It falls between those two. This part of the object is also referred to as its halftone. And you need to remember that this is where you place your most intense color. You don't place it here where the light falls or where the shadow is. Never make the shadow color as intense as the color that is seen in the light or in the halftone or local color. Now, this local value is a value that is darker than the value in the light, but lighter than the value in the shadow. It falls between these two values. That's why it's referred to as a halftone. And if you can't get the halftones right, then your painting will fail in terms of its light and shadow, and it will not look convincing and realistic. So what I'm pointing out to you here is very important, and it's something that needs to be applied if you intend to paint convincing, realistic objects. Now also, this local color and local value is not as warm as the color found in the light, but it's not as cool as the color found in the shadow. So it's between these two. So you need to get the temperature of the color in the halftone correct, as well as the temperature of the color in the light and in the shadow, to get a realistic, convincing looking object that is struck by the light and it has a light and shadow pattern to it. What needs to be done now is the edges need to be blended, mixed together like this, one color with the other, blending them together, softening the edge, and the same over here for the shadow and the halftone, creating a softer edge. Something like that. And you can still see a local color right here. Rounded forms have very soft edges, and that's how you can get the form to look like it's a rounded form, by giving it a very soft edge, like this. I smoothed out the edges a little more, and now there's a gradation from warm to cool color, and from a light value to a darker value. Lighter, a little darker, darkest. A gradation of value as well as a gradation of color, temperature. So you see how light and shadow changes the local color and value of an object. And the local color and value is still to be seen right here. I have not lost it, even though I've added light and shadow, and I've blended the edges to soft edges. That local color and value is still to be seen. Do not lose that when you add your light and shadow. Now I'm going to show you what needs to be done in addition to what I've shown you here in order to make the object look more realistic. For the shadow side, for example, a dark shadow needs to be added right here like this, at the edge where the shadow meets the local color or halftone of the object. And this darker color that you see here is called the core shadow. It is the darkest part of the shadow, and it occurs at the edge of where the light turns to shadow. When you add a core shadow like this, it immediately gives the object a greater solid look. You feel that this form is a curved form. It has a solidity to it, a three-dimensionality, enhanced by the addition of this core shadow in conjunction with the gradation of value from light to dark, which further helps to create this feeling of curvature, of solidity. A curved form is the result. The color of the core shadow is a darker version of the color of the shadow. So I just added a little bit of complementary color to this shadow color, and that darkened the color a little bit, enough to establish a core shadow. You'll also notice that the shadow color now looks a little lighter, and that's because a darker value has been added. Values will change as you add different values. What appeared light before may appear dark, or what appeared dark may appear light. It all depends on what values you add.